Friday! Woo! Imagine your favorite song right now is playing. Woo! Happy Friday, everyone. I am Chrystelle, the host of the Love and Meaning podcast, and this is Friday Night Live Dive. This is a live weekly session that I host where we go deep in the love and meaning topics. I bring the contemplations to life, and we make this all the most meaningful that it could be. In the podcast, Love and Meaning, I discuss a variety of different topics all about living a happiness forward life. It's all about personal development, personal growth, and this is a passion of mine. This is what I live and breathe, and I am constantly expanding myself, and my mission is to help others to do the same. So welcome. As you come in, please say hello and let me know what you are celebrating this week. So where can you find the podcast? The podcast is available on a variety of podcast-hosted sites, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube right here on my Goddess of Practicality page. The podcast drops every Monday at 8 a.m. EST. I don't really like this angle. Let's see if I can improve it. Is that better? Didn't make much of a difference. The podcast can be found, it drops every Monday at 8 a.m. EST, and then every Friday here on my YouTube page, Goddess of Practicality, we go deep together, and that is at 6 p.m. EST. I am so happy you're here, and today, as you come in, I want you to say hi, tell me what you're celebrating for the week, and also feel free to write your questions. Any question at all, any comment, any question from any episode is absolutely welcome. But in the absence of questions, I will be discussing the topics of this week's episode, which is episode number 11, The Fallacy of Failing. So interestingly enough, I did something special this week, and this episode is a recording. It's an oldie but a goodie. It is a recording of my very first live on Instagram, and that is from a series called Lessons from a Sixth Line. And in that series, I share a variety of different lessons, kind of from the perspective of my personal experiences, from my trials and error, from a lot of things that I've learned, mostly through kind of mistakes, sometimes the hard way, but nevertheless, a very powerful and strong lesson that has been impactful for me. So as a sixth line in human design, so my human design profile, we operate as a third line for the first 30 years of our life. And for those of you that don't know what this means, I do offer human design readings. You can find the links in the show notes. You can also find more information on my Goddess of Practicality Instagram page. So, but just to give you a little bit of an overview, a third line profile, these people operate very much through trial and error. They are the real livers of life. Life kind of bumps into them and they bump into life. And it's through this interaction, through this learning on their own. These are not the people that want to be told how to do it. They're going to figure it out by experience. And as a sixth line, myself, I have a 4-6 profile. For the first 30 years of my life, that is how I operated. I'm now in the second stage of a sixth line, but in this stage, I am more than ever really looking back on the really pertinent beginning years of my life and extracting the lessons. And boy, are there many. But we shall get into that in time. I hope everyone enjoyed the episode. So this episode being a recording of something I pre-recorded, or I did live on Instagram. If you are interested in checking out that entire series, Lessons from a Sixth Line, it's so fun. You can join me live. It happens monthly on my Instagram page, or I have a playlist here in my YouTube page called Lessons from a Sixth Line, and you can see all of the recordings posted there. So I hope you enjoy it. There's also a link in the show notes, so you can just follow the link and it will take you right there. I'm going to take a sip of water. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm celebrating for this week. Whew, I've been parched. I think this has a lot to do with me being, I said in the last weeks, I keep saying it over and over, but we will figure it out that I've been feeling quite fatigued. And it's coming with thirstiness. So what am I celebrating this week? I am celebrating support and mentorship. I am in deep gratitude for having such beautiful support in my life through the people that I've chosen in my life. So my life partner, my friends, and also coaches, mentors. This week was a trying one for me. I've been feeling under the weather, and there were some days that felt really, really, really tough, and my emotions felt high. And one of my favorite sayings from Melanie Ann Lair is, when emotions are high, intelligence is low. But I have such wonderful people that I can lean on in times like that. My partner stepped up big time. I've also been a grumpy pants. When I'm feeling tired, it's like I can be very much like a baby. I find projectors can be a lot like that. And he was just like, don't do anything. I'll wash the dishes. Sit down. Go watch cartoons. When I'm also feeling like not so good, one of the things that really cheers me up is watching cartoons. So he was like, go watch cartoons. What can I get you? Let's get French fries. Do you want sushi? My favorite things, French fries, sushi. And just, he's wonderful. So he's been really, really supportive. And then when I really felt like I am struggling to figure out how to problem solve this, my own thoughts feel like my enemies, I need help, I have my coach to reach out to, and she was immensely supportive. And so I am celebrating having the wonderful support that I have in my life, where I need it, how I need it, when I need it. And I'm feeling super, super grateful. So thank you so much, universe. And thank you for all of those who have supported me. I so appreciate it. I would love to know what you are celebrating for this week. So as you come in, please say hi, give this a like, and let me know what you're celebrating for the week. And then also feel free to drop any questions and any comments. But in the meantime, in between time, let's talk about the fallacy of failure. So, you know I love my lights, okay? I love my lights, but that's going to be annoying if I keep that on the whole time. So I'm going to turn it off. Here, I'll unplug it here, so just in case I feel like I want to change my mind. Hi, Kat. Kathy is here. Hey, gorgeous. Have a beautiful live taking the kids to Cirque du Soleil. That's a celebration. Wish I could stay. We'll try to connect from the road. Bye. Love you. Love you too. Have the best time. Oh my God, I'm jealous. I am jelly. Who else loves Cirque du Soleil? I love Cirque du Soleil. It's so good. Anyways, I hope you have the most wonderful time. And we are going to count that as your celebration for the week. So, woo! Oh, I don't have the light to do the celebration. See, I have to put the light back on, guys. It's absolutely necessary. All right. Cirque du Soleil lights. Woo-hoo! Okay. So as you come in, say hi and let me know what you're celebrating. So in the meantime, let's talk about this week's episode. Okay. Let's talk about the fallacy of failure. Like, what is that in the first place? And this recording, which was my first recording of Lessons from a Sixth Line, was so impactful for me because it is my first biggest lesson. And interestingly enough, recently I've been delving into the Gene Keys, which is kind of like sister to human design. And in the gene keys, I'm not going to go into detail about it, but interestingly enough, I discovered that one of my life curriculum, one of the things that I'm meant to learn in this life, overcome in this life, is a fear of failure. And I was doing that all on my own. Long before I even came to the gene keys, this was my big first lesson when I stepped into personal growth and personal development. I don't really like this very white light. Let's change this. What do you guys think? I was always like, why do influencers change their lights in the middle of their lives? I now know why. Because you're looking at a very white face, and it's weird. I think that's a little bit more natural. Thank you. I swear to God, I don't have that on my face. Okay, so why was this so impactful for me? Multiple reasons. I diagnosed with ADHD when I was a child. Very hyperactive, very impulsive, very excitable. I'm still pretty darn excitable. It's one of my favorite things about my personality. But as you can imagine, if you have ever engaged with very hyperactive children, it's a lot. It's a lot to handle, especially if you are a parent or a teacher or an adult who just doesn't have the bandwidth at the time. You need them to stop, settle down. So I felt very much for most of my childhood like I was inconveniencing people. I felt like I was always doing something wrong. And the place that my desires were coming from to do things was always this like lovely place inside of me. Like, ooh, tree, let's climb it. That felt fun. I would follow this feeling of fun and all of a sudden I'd be in trouble. And it just like was a continuous thing. And I very quickly from a very young age developed this kind of expectation of messing up. It really led me to feel not great about myself in certain ways, not in everything. And this isn't that I didn't like myself, but one, in school, that was really, really hard, not having a hard time paying attention and stuff. So I concluded that I must be really stupid. And two, just like really like annoying, inconvenienced. It was just not the greatest impression of myself to others, the effect that I have on authority figures and adults. I was always very good at making friends, but it was more like in a structure, I just didn't seem to fit in. And I felt like the things that I loved weren't valued. And the thing that I loved the most was fun. And to be honest, I think the conclusion that I came to as a kid was that why is life so serious and boring? Everything that adults want you to do is like boring. And I was pretty against boring. So it was a bit of a battle, you know? So this fear of failure was implanted really, really young because then I started to have to do tests. And I got a lot of anxiety when I had to do a test because to me, it was just another opportunity where I was going to be demonstrated. It was going to be demonstrated to me and to whoever is marking me that I am not smart, that I can't pay attention, that I can't focus, that I'm wrong, that I'm broken, that I'm something that doesn't feel good. And so I get a lot of anxiety, and then that would even affect how I'm doing the test. And turns out I'm actually a pretty smart kid. It took me a really long time to figure that out because of the way that the world kind of approached me and my ADHD. So fear of failure really set in from a young age. So when I came to this understanding that I had implanted this belief so deeply that it stopped me from trying things. It stopped me from following that feeling of fun, of excitement, of like really going for things, going big. It halted me and I hadn't even realized it. So this episode was all about acknowledging that failure is a part of life and that it isn't a bad thing. And I'm proposing a reframe. I called it the fallacy of failure because I kind of want to call all of us out, call out society, call out the powers that be, the structured systems, and I wish that we could teach children, that we could kind of encourage each other. So adult to adult, encourage each other to go ahead and make a mistake. And before anyone is bringing up like really extreme examples, this is everyday life stuff that I'm talking about. I'm talking about how we really fall into this need to be perfect, and for anything that we attempt to be done exactly perfectly or doesn't deserve attempting. And as we know, anybody that's accomplished anything amazing in their life, they didn't start out that way. It took them time to get that way. They failed all along the way. They made mistakes all along the way. When we are kids and we are learning to walk, we don't just walk. We crawl and we start to stand and we trip a million times before we even make 3 steps in a row. And as Abraham Hicks loves to say, none of us say to that kid, "Get up, you little dummy." It's not a requirement to never trip. You just go straight to walking. We all know inherently that mistakes are an absolute necessary part of success, that you don't get to doing anything great without making mistakes all along the way and then perfecting and tweaking. So why is it that so many of us are tortured by this inability to allow ourselves to make mistakes? Hi, Synth. Hello. Cynthia says, some of my greatest successes have come from my failure. My career is one. Amen. So how many mistakes did you have to make all along the way? And in your career, which is thriving today, do you make any mistakes still? Or is it just like smooth sailing? We've passed that. There's no mistakes here. Let us know. But it's the same for me. Everything that I think that I consider myself great at, I made mistakes all along the way. And it's in those mistakes and then learning from them that I got to be really good at it all the time. You say all the time. As far as I'm concerned, you don't make mistakes, you don't grow. This is what I believe. I'm open to other suggestions. There's no doubt things that we are absolutely excellent at, but this idea that you must innately just be a savant at something in order to attempt it is really unfortunate because, for example, I can think about myself and it took me forever to get to this place. And if I was really honest with myself, I probably would have started this 10 years ago. I knew years ago that I had this calling in me. I just kept shutting it down, quieting it, pushing it away. I also had a lot of people come to me. The amount of people that said to me, you should be a coach, you should be a coach, you should be a coach. Oh my gosh, you need to like talk about this. You need to teach people about this stuff. Because I would just talk about it, like with my friends, with my family, all the stuff that I was learning, it would light me up and I would just talk about it. And then people would be like, oh my gosh, you need to like have a YouTube or open, something, write a blog. And I was like, me? No, never. Oh my gosh, never. This was my genuine response. Like, no, never. But why? Why no, never? Because I'm not good enough. Well, maybe yet. And also, for who? For what? Do you enjoy it? How come the question isn't more often, do you enjoy it? I remember when I first started OT school, and there was a study that we were learning, and I can't quote who conducted the study, but the study was done on middle school children, and they were assessing boys and girls, little boys and little girls. And they found that in general, overall, little girls, when it came to trying something new, they would much prefer to not do it at all rather than potentially do it imperfectly. And the boys were much more willing. And the question was, what are we doing? Like the premise of the study was like, what are we doing in schools that is encouraging this? Why are girls so afraid to try things that they might not be so good at? And I think it comes down to so much of the societal pressure, but this pressure towards perfectionism. And so without even knowing it, these girls from a very young age, and this doesn't mean that this doesn't affect boys and men as well. It was just disproportionate. The study came out with statistically significant differences. But what is it that we're doing that tells them it's not okay? And I just thought about like sports and competitions and stuff, and like in general, just like watching little boys play and little girls play. Like it is so much more like that rough and tumbleness, like this idea that you're gonna fall down, that you're gonna scrape yourself. Like it's okay. Like even from that perspective of like you make a mess, you are, you're rough and you're roughhousing and you're getting your clothes dirty versus like don't mess up your pretty dress. And like it starts from there. I think it's really implanted from a really young age in all these different ways. I started assessing all of the different ways that I might have learned this, So I know that as a kid, like with the ADHD, I came home bumped, bruised, scratched, torn, like everything. And my mom used to be like, why can't you keep your clothes clean? Like, why? And it wasn't conscious to me, but I was constantly implanting the fact that like this was wrong of me. Like this adventure that I went on today in the backyard or in the park, there was something wrong there, that I did. I messed up. So like stop trying things so much. And these are just the tiny ways. And this is not saying that anybody did this intentionally, but just these tiny little ways that we're constantly like, everything must be perfect, shiny, neat, clean. But why? Why? So let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what's coming up for you as you're hearing this. So what's interesting to me further past the idea of failure. Okay. So everybody understands fear of failure. And I want to mention this beautiful quote that Cynthia, who's here today, mentioned a couple of lives ago. She had said, what did you say, Cynth? There are so many opportunities on the other side of fear. And it stuck with me. I thought it was so beautifully said. There are so many opportunities on the other side of fear. How many opportunities are we missing out on because of our fear? How many potential things, potential feelings, potential relationships? Most of us have watched Michael Jordan's the Michael Jordan documentary, and I know that he's such a perfect example of this, of like this wasn't everything that he put that he learned, that he got good at. He didn't start out that way. He practiced. There's an idea in sports that you have to practice to get there. But in real life and the rest of our lives, it's like, no, you just have to start out perfect, right? And I started to think about this. I really started to think about this. And then this is where we got to in this week's episode. I started to think about it. Are there other areas of your life where you're willing to fail? Like, is this entirely true? Like, is this really covering it? So yes, fear of failure implanted for sure in general. But that's not only what it is. That's like overarching, but there's more to it. Because I started to think of examples of people I know. I started to think of myself. And there are plenty of examples of things I'm willing to fail at. I'm willing to fail in friendship, like making friends or talking to new people. I know I'm going to say mine. Okay. So what are yours? What are the things that you're willing to fail at? If I think about it, like I'm willing to fail at like talking to new people. I'm willing to fail at playing games, learning new games. I recently started to learn how to play poker. I didn't expect to be good at it. I expected to learn. I'm actually not that bad, but that didn't bother me. I was willing to fail. I'm willing to fail at recipes, trying a new recipe. So what are these things? There are things that you're willing to fail at, right? Why are we willing to fail at certain things and not others? So it got me thinking, because what I had said in the episode was that I picked up and moved to New York City all by myself. But I was terrified of opening an Instagram page and talking about human design and inner work. Really? A lot of people would say that moving to New York is a lot scarier, and there's a lot more to lose, and there's a lot more to fail at. New career, new friends, new environment, new everything, right? All of that. Entirely new. No problem. Instagram? Absolutely not. So it couldn't be as simple as fear of failure. So what was it? It came down to the emotion of disappointment. When you want something so strongly, you have a desire that is so strong. It hurts so much more. It feels so much more painful, the potential that couldn't work out. So it wasn't just a cut and dry fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Cynthia's saying fear of rejection. Right. I'm using disappointment to describe it but I feel like rejection is like the same. This is like the same sentiment. Like someone will say, it's not good enough. It's not, that's dumb. You don't know what you're talking about. Right. So I'm using more disappointment because I'm not even sure that I was consciously thinking that it had to do with so much more of like other people won't like it. But it had to do with, if I put my heart into this thing that I have a goal for, and I don't achieve that goal, I'm going to be so disappointed. And at that point, I had not learned in any way how to sit with emotion. And I can confidently say that I don't think most adults today that I'm surrounded by know how to do that. Many emotions don't know how to sit with those emotions. But the big one is disappointment. And I think rejection is a big one too. Learning to sit with that emotion. Like, what is going to happen? Play it out to the end. Building enough strength inside of ourselves. It's just an emotion that I was the most afraid of. What if it doesn't work out? This thing. If that thing doesn't work out, okay, fine. So it's not as simple as a fear of failure. There was a correlation between how much I wanted it, how much I loved it, and how much I was afraid to go forward. So what are the things that you are willing to fail at all the time? Because we slap this fear of failure guard on everything, and it's not that simple. So I want you to recognize for yourself, what are the things that you're willing to fail at all the time? If you don't write them here in the chat, which I would love to hear you write them here in the chat, write them down. Because there are plenty of things that you are doing all the time that you don't know that you're good at and you're fine with. And some of them, you might even realize once you started doing it that you like it and that you really want it to work out, and it doesn't quite work out the way that you want it to, but then you get up and you learn and you do the whole process. You even experience the disappointment in that, and you keep going. So you know you are capable of it. You know you are capable of it. Identify what those things are. When I did that, it was my first kind of step. Like, I feel like in this concept, I stood up straighter. I was like, wait a minute. I am willing to investigate here. This is not entirely a truth. I can be brave. So why can't I be brave here? It came down for me to not being able to hold disappointment. Thinking in my head. It was a concept. Now I looked even deeper. And here's the next thing that I noticed. I was already experiencing disappointment. I was actually already disappointed that I hadn't started moving towards the thing that I wanted. At a certain level, I felt an inadequacy about my life. I felt a disappointment because deep down inside, I knew I was called to something. I knew that I had a bigger purpose. I knew I had a mission, and I wasn't on it. I wasn't on the path to it. I wasn't doing the things. I was already disappointed. So, what if we start being willing to fail and make mistakes and be disappointed in the things that actually matter to us? And I think we'll be highly surprised as to how you find yourself closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to your desire. So tell me what's coming up for you as you're hearing this. What is the emotion that you think that you have built up in your head that you are unable to manage? When it comes down to it, I promise you that underneath it, even if you have all of the excuses as to why you can't move forward with this thing, and it's logistics and it's time and it's the opportunities, I promise you, it's an emotion. It's an emotion, because there's always a way. There are so many people. Guys, my mom is here. Hi, Mama. Public speaking and feeling inadequate. The feeling is feeling inadequate, right? Hi. So, if we're willing to fail another way, can we all admit it? Can we all admit that we're imperfect? Can we admit that? Can we admit that we're making mistakes every day? You're failing in some way every day, all the time. All the time. You're making that mistake, and it's fine, right? How many mistakes are we making willingly, without so much fear, that aren't even leading us to this big thing that we want, the desire that we want, the goal that we want, the thing that our heart is like striving towards? So are we willing to be afraid, feel inadequate right now, feel nervous, and make that next step? And maybe we'll mess up, but make that next step towards the thing. What are some potential benefits on the other side of that? This is what I noticed. You guys tell me for yourself if you've experienced this. For me, being where I am now, I never felt more brave. And the crazy thing is, the amount of people that have called me brave my whole life, I never believed it. I never believed it. Because guess what? It works the same way for emotions that we want. I didn't feel brave until I did a thing that really mattered to me and I was afraid of. Then I felt brave. People have been calling me brave. But I moved to New York. Wow, you're so brave to move to New York by yourself. I was like, all right, whatever. I'll make friends. It's not a big deal, you know? That was my thought. That was what it was to me. But open your Instagram and talk about human design and let the world know that you're a spirituality and inner work junkie. Let them know. Let it be free. Ah! Woo-hoo! And I did it. And it felt freaking amazing. It felt freaking amazing. And when I was making my posts, I was having so much fun. When I started the podcast, oh my God, I was scared. And then I literally did my first recording, hadn't even published it yet. I'm like, I'm the bravest, most courageous person in the whole freaking world. In the whole world. Like, there are so many people, whoever is in this moment climbing Mount Everest thinks this is hilarious. This is laughable. But to me, it was scary. You know, I'm definitely willing right now to go and try to learn to ski down a slope that is harder than I've ever done before. I'll probably fall on my face, but I'm okay with failing all the way down the hill. That's fine. But this thing that means so much to me, I felt so brave being willing to make those mistakes. So on the other side of this are the good feelings. And they motivate you more and more along the way, right? You're inspired by your attempt to try. Now, what about the other people that you inspire? Right? There's like this whole ripple effect of what we can do when we attempt make the next step, make one step closer, one step closer. Because I promise you, whatever it is that you are afraid of, you are experiencing that emotion already. So would you rather fail forward, make the mistakes in the things that matter, or would you rather not try and be so disappointed in the fact that you never did it? What do you think hurts more? I know what it was for me. And I'm still making mistakes. I've made 15 mistakes on this one live already. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm having a good time. I love you guys. I love the stuff that I'm talking about. I've gotten really beautiful feedback. I feel like I'm spreading positivity. I feel like there's somebody out there in the world, on the internet, that needed to hear this today. And if that was one single person that listened to this and it touched them, I feel like I've done my job. And then there's you that showed up today. You chose to be here in this moment. I'm assuming that there's meaning for you there. Instead of thinking about all the people that might say, well, that was dumb, I'm going to think about who's right here with me, reflecting on how you can be braver, how you can learn to sit with an emotion. It's an emotion. It's not an experience. It's not real. And recognize all the other areas in your life that you're willing to make all these mistakes, and those things aren't even that meaningful to you. So how can you make it more meaningful? And can we move away? Can we move into a new era of mistakes? Can we respect mistakes? For me, that's a definite yes. I am proudly failing my way to the top. I promise you. You guys can watch me go and come along with me if you want. I'm so ready for it. I've never had this much fun making mistakes. And it has nothing to do with, wow, it's because you're so good. There's way better. There's way better. And they inspire me. This feeling, how it feels to do this, is the point. And you all have that in you, that feeling that you want to experience. Let that be stronger than the fear. So tell me what's coming up for you. Mom, I don't know if you heard when you came in, we all say something that we are celebrating. What are you celebrating this week? What are you celebrating? Sim 2, did you say what you're celebrating? What are we celebrating this week? And what do you think? What's coming up for you listening to this? What's on the other side of fear for you? And you know what we can talk about? What does it actually look like to hold an emotion? What does it actually look like to hold an emotion? Because I too heard a lot of people say, process your emotions, process your emotions, process your emotions. And yes, there are multiple different ways that you can do this, but it can be very simple. And I'm going to show you how simple it can be. This was my entryway, and this was enough to start. Now I'm very into somatics, and there are multiple different techniques and modalities that you can use. I am a huge fan of EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is tapping, on the meridian points. And I am a huge fan of breath work. But simply holding your emotions, this is what it looks like. This is how simple it is, okay? First step, every emotion that you experience has a physical aspect to it. There's a place that it is showing up physically in your body. Having a difficult conversation at work. Are you saying that is what you're fearing? That's what's upcoming? So while you answer, Synth, I'm gonna say how we process our emotion. Okay. Daily. I promise you guys, this is a daily experience. Find the physical. Oh! Cynthia is celebrating having a difficult conversation at work. You are in the freshest, most wonderful place to see what is on the other side of holding that emotion. This is what's on the other side of fear. What do you feel after doing it? What do you feel after doing that thing that felt really, really scary that you could have avoided doing? What did you know was on the other side? What are you experiencing now? Pride, I hope, is one of them, because I'm feeling very freaking proud of you. Very, very proud of you. Pride, that's another one that I felt, and I know some people have a negative connotation with that emotion. So another one that would maybe be a little bit more palatable is like esteem. Like I felt like my self-esteem increased, my self-adequacy increased. Okay, let me say how to process emotion. So you find the physical place that it is in your body. So oftentimes if I'm feeling anxious, I'll use that because that one comes up the most. It tends to manifest in my chest or in my solar plexus, in my stomach area. So what I will do is I will put my hand on the physical feeling, on the sensation. There's always a sensation to the feeling, so that I can ground myself into where I'm focusing, and I simply feel it and breathe. Like that. Feel it and breathe. So as you feel it and you breathe, you're going to ask yourself, what does it feel like? Does it have a texture? Does it have a cadence? So is it like spiky, feels solid, heavy, like a stone, like needles, clumpy? What does it feel like? Just name the feeling. Feels kind of sharp and jabbing. Okay, I'm just going to be with that. I'm just going to be with this feeling in my chest. Just like this. You're feeling it, you're naming it. I ask myself things like, does it have a color? Sometimes it's black, it's red, it's green, it's bright red, it's pulsating red. Okay, I see you. I see you and I feel you. Anxiety. Sometimes I'll ask myself, and it feels too difficult, you don't have to, but sometimes I'll ask myself, can you pour love on it? Can you feel this with love? Can you hold space for this feeling the way that you would for a little child? Just give it space. Like sometimes when a little kid is having an absolute tantrum, my mother is extremely experienced in this. And I would just be a hot mess and she would just hug me. She would just hug me. And all of the moms out there, you know how to do this. Can you imagine that same kind of compassion towards that feeling? If it's pulsating red, it's spiky, it's sharp, it's whatever it is, it's asking for your attention. The same way that your little kid who's so tired, who is hungry maybe, who is feeling all these things, overwhelmed, and they just need to scream right now, and they're looking for your attention. Can you just be there? It's the same thing. So I just look at it with that kind of compassion. And what you'll notice is quite quickly, too, it will start to dissipate. The pulsing red will pulse less. It maybe will turn a little bit lighter red, maybe a little bit pink. It will start to come down. It will start to come down. For me, the next thing that might happen is because the energy is what's happening is it's dispersing. It's not so trapped. I will often cry. That's my way. I'm a crier. I don't know if that's anybody else's way, but you will feel some sort of way that it wants to move out. Some people will want to like squeeze their fist or shake their hands. Some people, sometimes I do this too, is like I need to just like rock myself. When I cried after launching the podcast in that episode where I talked about how I just had this conversation with my inner child, I held myself and rocked and cried. There's a reason we rock babies, guys. Our nervous systems are very settled in that way. And you'll just start to see it dissipate and it will come down. It will come down. It will come down. Just like that. You've processed an emotion. Ta-da! Just like that. It doesn't take anything other than letting it be and giving it the attention and feeling it. What will happen when it dissipates is you will actually be able to think clearly. Something might come to you like, okay, maybe I didn't need to yell at that person, or all right, there are multiple solutions here. This isn't the end of the world. Or it's that, okay, you know what I really need right now is I need a hug and I know exactly who's going to give it to me. I really think that I would benefit from talking to somebody, talking through this with someone. But that rational next thought will come. But you first have to give the emotion space. So that feeling of disappointment for me, I just recognized it. And then usually it would transform and I'd realize it was truly anxiety. It might transform into something else, right? But either way, it needs your attention. Mom is celebrating Feeling healthy and grateful. I love that. Feeling healthy and grateful. Yes, I know right now is a difficult time. So I hear you. I hear you. So we are celebrating feeling healthy and grateful. And because you missed it, Ma, everybody gets a special light shown on their celebration. So here is the light shine to flash on your celebration. Woo! The lights are up so you can't fully see it, but you see how I'm blue? Awesome. That's beautiful. So what's coming up for you guys? Do you feel like if I offer you the challenge, if I give you the challenge of identifying where you can move forward, what you could be more brave in, can we do this together? Because there are still so many things, so many things where I'm working on this, but I'm actively discovering them. I'm actively looking for the places where I'm like, you are avoiding doing that thing. You are avoiding doing that thing. Why? What are you feeling? There's always a feeling that is in the way. Feel the feeling. Can you give it space? Okay. Can I experience this and move forward? Yes, I can. I'm okay. I can do this. Okay. Here we go. And then repeat, repeat, repeat. Do you feel like you can move forward in something, closer to something this week? And if there is, if you're brave enough and you want to mention what it is, say what it is. Say what it is. I am definitely doing this as well. So for me, this week, I'll mention something that actually came to me today, and it was a really beautiful experience. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I've been feeling a little bit under the weather. So my mom's celebration of feeling grateful for being healthy, like that hits home. I've been feeling a little under the weather, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on. So I felt quite anxious about it. And what came to me today, well, I shouldn't say it came to me today. I met with my accountability partner yesterday, and I said that my goal for myself is that I'm going to offer myself more silence. I know for me that in silence, in meditation, in quiet, in contemplation, the answers come. I'm going to offer myself more silence in this time where I'm feeling more activated. So today, I took multiple breaks throughout my day just to simply sit and breathe in silence. And around 4 p.m., I did it for the fourth time today. And within a minute of me sitting, I just had this download. And I say download because it didn't feel like my own thought. It just came through me. And what it said was, I trust the universe. And the statement came through with such truth because I do trust the universe. So this was a message personally for me. If this resonates for you, take it. I think it's so powerful. But I trust the universe. And I was like, I do trust the universe. It's the truth. I have this very strong sense of knowing that the universe loves me and supports me. And as soon as I said I trust the universe, everything in my body felt relief. I trust the universe, therefore, I know that this isn't my time to go. I have a big mission here on the planet. However, it's meant to unfold. It will unfold. I trust in the universe. I trust in the universe. I'm being called towards patience. So, for example, I went and did lab work with my doctor. I'm waiting on the results. It's taking forever, in my opinion. Like one day feels like forever, but it's been days. And what came through, I trust in the universe. I trust that I am being asked to be able to sit with patients. Not for the virtue of it, from like my Catholic upbringing of like, it's a virtue to have patience. Not that. As in, there is a strength and there is a lesson behind this, because I believe that all along my path, there are going to be times that I am called for patience, that I am called for releasing expectation. And this is just simply preparation. I guarantee this is probably a tiny little taste of the amount of times that I'm going to feel like this feels like forever and I don't want to wait. I haven't even contemplated the amount of times it might feel like that in my life. I'm not a parent yet. I can't even imagine how many times parents have to feel like that. And I just had this awareness of, I trust in the universe that this is just the tiniest little test, the tiniest little thing to strengthen me into what is to come. Okay. I can surrender into that. And I know that what is for me is coming. And that came from me identifying that my next step towards being brave, my next step towards the unknown, the fear, is taking moments of silence. I followed it and that thing came through. And I think it is so powerful. So for anybody, if that works for you, please take it. That reminder, I trust in the universe. If it feels true to you, then you can surrender that what is for you. If you're being called to it, if you feel that thing that says like you're supposed to be able to speak in public, like your voice is meant to be heard. Your voice is meant to be heard. What's the next step towards it? And trust. Trust that it will be. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this inspires you, inspires somebody into being whatever it is that your heart desires, because that desire was put there for a reason. And listen, we are imperfect beings. We are imperfecting all over the darn place. So let's just start imperfecting in ways that actually benefit us, in the ways that light us up the most. I think regret will be a much less palatable emotion. Regretting not trying, So what are you going to do? That's your homework here. What are you going to step forward into this week? I want to remind everyone, I certainly did, and I hope in a week I can brave it. I know you can. I certainly did, and I hope in a week I can brave it. Thank you. I'm touched, and I'm glad that it felt beneficial. So I want to remind you, the podcast drops every Monday at 8 a.m. EST, and this Friday night live dive every Friday, 6 p.m. EST. Drop your questions and your comments right here underneath if you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, you can drop your comments and your questions right there. If you're listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the bottom of the podcast episode. You can drop your questions, your comments right there. You can leave a voice note of your question or your comment as well, and I will get it. And there is still the draw going on. We still have the contest going on where 2 lucky people will win a full 90-minute human design reading with me. When we reach 100 rates and reviews for the podcast on any of the platforms, and you take a screenshot of your review, email it to me at goddessofpracticality@gmail.com. All the details are here in the show notes. You will be entered into the draw, and 2 people will win a full 90-minute human design reading with me. So if that sounds exciting for you, go ahead and drop your reviews and your rates. Please like this so that more people can see it. I love you. I hope you have a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye.